Hello, Windsor. This is Angie. It is Sunday, April 19th, and this is our evening COVID-19 update. You know the drill. We'll go ahead and start with a case count. This evening, we saw an increase of 822 cases in the last 24 hours, taking us from 25,492 cases as reported by the Department of Health up to 26,314 cases in the state of Florida. Deaths increased by 26 in the last 24 hours, and the current total is 774. As far as cases in Osceola County, we are currently at 409 cases, and Orange County continues to lead Central Florida in the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases at 1,198 cases. Either today or last evening, the state of Florida, presumably Department of Health, released a list of what they call nursing homes with positive COVID-19 cases. Just a correction there, number one, before I get into the moral of the story, which is they indicated these are nursing homes. However, they are more appropriately labeled licensed senior living communities. There are both assisted living and nursing homes / skilled nursing facilities on this list. So really all senior living communities that have a licensed entity within them. So Windsor, of course, we have the club, independent living, but we also have the villages and the neighborhoods as well. So that is what kind of would make us an appropriate comparison for this list, because we don't have cases. I want to make sure I'm not creating a confusion here. So Windsor continues to be COVID-19 free. Best news of my life so far, I think. That said, this list was published today, and it indicated that 303 communities within the state of Florida, varying levels of care, are currently affected by positive COVID-19 cases in their communities. Now, it doesn't say if there's one case or 90 cases, but it does say that 303 communities have been affected, and if my memory serves me, it's a total of about 1,600 or 1,700 individuals residing in these kind of communities that have been affected. So I want to point that, and it's interesting because there are communities on this list who've had cases that that you might have even looked at before you moved in at Windsor. And I don't say that as a yay, Windsor's the best and they're not the best, because I do believe that this COVID-19 situation is not that simple. Okay, it's not that simple. So I don't want anybody to think I'm saying that to be a poor sport or be applauding the fact that another community is dealing with these cases. Rather, I want us to all just kind of reflect on the fact that there's still a big risk. We are still at risk as a community for developing a COVID-19 case or outbreak. And just as a reminder as to why we continue to do what the CDC says, what the Department of Health says, what the Agency for Healthcare Administration says, and what Life Care Services says, and our best practices in terms of combating the potential of this pandemic. So we're so happy that we are not on the list, and my heart, certainly as a long-time administrator of senior living communities, goes out to all of the folks that are living in these communities and their families, because it's got to be just so difficult. And while we are struggling here, because these are difficult restrictions to be living under and frustrating circumstances, our grass is still pretty green, and that is good news. So I just want to bring that up because I do think it's so important that even myself, as we live in this bubble of 30, 40 days at this point, that we are still at risk. So the things that we are doing, we have done, we continue to do, and we continue to tweak, that they're really important that we maintain that focus on those interventions at this time so that we can stay COVID-19 free. Also, in addition to that, with Governor DeSantis starting to talk about the return to normalcy, I want to help us as a community, myself too, and all of our staff, residents, families, everybody, start the process of creating reasonable expectations for what that's going to look like, right? So it's not like, even in the state, right? It's not like somebody's going to turn off a light switch and we're going to go back to pre-COVID life. That's probably going to be a long time away. But more importantly, I want us all to recognize where we are in this COVID-19 risk assessment. We are very high risk, like the highest of the high risk, right? We have age risk, and then we have a lot of residents that have other comorbidities or health issues that either make them higher risk for becoming infected with COVID-19, or if they do become infected with COVID-19, having complications as a result of COVID-19. So we are not going to be on the front end of the return to normal. We're going to be on the back end. So I want everybody to have a reasonable set of expectations of that, and we're going to talk about that a little bit every night as we go forward, because I'm with you. I'm like, oh my gosh, getting back to normal is going to be so great. But I don't know we know what that's going to look like yet. I don't know what that time frame is going to look like, and I don't know where we're going to fall and what parts of our normal, how those are going to all fall into place. That's all going to come over the next several weeks. But I want us to just create expectations that, the beaches are open, we'll be next, because I think we've got a lot more time till we get there. That said, as all of us, I'm sure our ears peak up, and everybody probably has different opinions on opening the beaches or doing this or doing that. Everyone's got their own personal opinions, certainly. I want our families and friends as well just to keep that in mind. Over the last couple of days, we have seen an uptick in the number of families and individuals trying to gain access to property. And I know on an individual basis, everybody's probably like, Angie, that's ridiculous. Just let people come and just let people look in the windows. The problem is it's not manageable. And it does increase risk, because it increases the risk, it increases the need for staff interactions with individual on sites, potentially opens us up for resident interactions with individuals on site. I don't think it's not news to anybody that our community of Windsor, even within the club setting, that we have varying levels of cognitive status, and a lot of this may be more difficult for some residents to comprehend and understand why they can't see family members and why they have to stay 6 feet apart. And that in and of itself, with families and loved ones coming on site, creates confusion and risk for exposure. And that's hard, because I know I see all these beautiful pictures of people and windows and things, but when we take that a step further and we think about the repercussions of that, they are significant. And then we have the risk of, if a resident does get near a family member, it might not even be your family member, but there are people on site outside the building. What is the potential that person is infected? And I can hear the conversations now on the phone. Oh, but I'm not affected. I don't have any symptoms. I've been quarantining, etc. And I get that, and I could have that conversation. But when I think of like me as a family member, I'm fine. But would I feel comfortable with my parent potentially being exposed to the 149 or any number of family members or friends of those other 149 residents? And I would say there's somebody in that group. There are a number of people in that group that are affected, even if they don't know it, right? Because there's so many like silent carriers and things like that, that I guess my my plea here is I just don't think it's worth the risk. I just don't think it's worth the risk of transmission, of infection. You know, we still have enough anxiety about grocery deliveries and things like that. You know, that's a lot of our time and cleaning, etc. We continue to try to really reduce the risk for exposure. You know, my husband today actually made some couple of things for me to put in my fridge, and I made him put it on the ground and back away. It was like, back away from the cheesecakes. So we can't lighten up, you know. And even he was trying to get a little close, and I'm like, seriously, back away from the cheesecake. I need 6 feet, 7 feet, maybe more. Put it on the ground. Let me see your hand. So it's hard. It's tempting when families come on site. So I'm just pleading with the residents and families that we just continue to keep our eye on the ball. We're almost there. We have to really continue to work hard and stay focused to stay COVID-19 free. Keep doing what we're doing. It's working, and hope that we can hold on here through the tail end and the other side of the peak of this pandemic. So, all right. So that's kind of my plea in terms of we've gotten this far. We can get there. Let's just all buckle down and be a part of keeping us healthy. In other news, this is not very exciting updates. The darn trash chute. The trash chute today, I opened the trash chute to put my trash in the bottom level of the trash chute, and it looked a little bit like something had exploded. And when I kind of looked around, investigated the trash chute situation, I saw that there were some of the old paper bags that we were using when we were doing pickup meal service, the brown paper bags with a handle. It looks like people might be using those and push them down. Please, please, please do not put anything down there unless the bag is tied, okay? Because even if it's in a bag, if the bag's open, you know, goes down that chute fast enough. It's like one of our residents mentioned some people probably have never even lived in a community with a trash chute before. I've never lived in a community with a trash chute, but I've worked in a community with a trash chute, which was my first experience in Washington, D.C. But it's like an enclosed slide, if you will, but straight down, right? So, and at the bottom are big bins that catch the trash. So you can imagine if you're dropping something down from the 4th, 5th, 6th floor, that picks up some speed depending on what's in the bag. And if it doesn't have a lid and it's not tied, things will potentially come up and out of the bag. Or when they hit the trash bin, they'll explode. And that looks like what may have happened to a couple of bags. So just please be mindful of that. If you need trash bags, just let the food and beverage staff know when they come by. We have the little order form for the grocery. We have 10 and 15 gallon bags, I think. And just make sure that those are tied. And just from a safety standpoint, God forbid, there's somebody down in the trash room, like when I was down there today, although it might have been like the Rotten Tomatoes equivalent. If you get the executive director with the tomato sauce, you win. But it's just something to be mindful. It's a little icky down there. So thank you for everybody to remember to tie your trash bags, and if you need some more, to let us know. On a final note, there's a birthday today. We have Miss Marilyn Miller is having a birthday today. Happy birthday, Marilyn, I would sing, but that wouldn't make it any happier. So I'm just going to wish you a happy birthday. Again, I know this isn't anyone's typical or hoped for birthday, but I know you're glad to be here. We've had a lot of talks, and it was a long time coming for you to get to Windsor, and I know that we're going to have many celebrations in the future. But I hope you made it the best possible day despite the circumstances, and knowing you probably did. So happy birthday, Marilyn, and good night, Windsor. We will see you tomorrow, same time, same place.